The Vracair had never lost a hunt. They were the strongest predators in the universe, their name whispered in fear across countless planets. Their bodies were built for war, tall, armored, and stronger than any known species. Their technology was unmatched, their ships unstoppable. Wherever they went, civilizations fell, and no species had ever fought back for long. Now they had arrived at a small blue planet called Earth. Their warships hovered in the dark void, scanning the planet's surface. The readings were disappointing. Weak weapons, primitive defenses, no energy shields. The Vracair commander, Zorvac, sat on his throne, watching the reports with growing boredom. "This will be over quickly," he growled. His hunters laughed. They had heard stories of this species, humans, a race that barely left their own planet, with technology 1,000 years behind the Vracair. Some of their warriors called themselves soldiers, but they had never faced true predators before. Zorvac lifted a clawed hand. "Send in the scouts. Find out if there is anything of value here before we destroy them." A squadron of sleek black ships broke away from the fleet, descending towards the Earth's surface. They moved fast, invisible to human radars, their pilots eager for the hunt. But then something strange happened. The first ship stopped responding. Then the second. The Vracair listened to the last transmission from their lead scout. It was not a battle. It was a scream. Then silence. Zorvac frowned. What happened? The communications officer checked the signals again. "Unknown, Commander." The ships vanished. No distress signals. No wreckage. Just gone. The Vracair warriors shifted uneasily. This was not normal. When they attacked, their enemies screamed, begged, and ran. They did not disappear without a trace. Zorvac's claws tightened around the armrest of his throne. "Send a second wave, fully armed." This time, 10 ships moved in. The Vracair inside were ready for war. They activated their energy shields, scanning every inch of the battlefield. They expected to see human soldiers, crude weapons, maybe even a weak attempt at resistance. But there was nothing. The city below was silent. No movement, no fleeing civilians, just empty streets and darkened buildings. One of the Vracair warriors, Gormak, tapped his controls. "Commander, I don't like this. It feels like a sharp static noise cut through the communication line. Then, one by one, the ships began to disappear from the radar. No explosions, no weapons fire, just gone. Zorvac stood up from his throne, his eyes burning with rage. "What is HFY?" A chilling message came through their comms. A human voice, calm and quiet. "You are not the hunters here. Welcome to Earth." The transmission ended. The warship's control room fell silent. The Vracair warriors, the strongest predators in the universe, felt something they had never known before. Fear. Zorvac's claws dug into the metal armrest of his throne. This was impossible. The Vracair had faced countless species, conquered entire empires, and broken the will of civilizations far more advanced than this weak human race. Yet, here they were, losing scouts without a single shot fired. The control room of the Vracair flagship was silent except for the hum of machinery and the uneasy breathing of the crew. The message still echoed in their minds. "You are not the hunters here. Welcome to Earth." A challenge. A warning. A trap. Zorvac slammed his fist against the control panel. "I want answers. Now." His second-in-command, Varkesh, analyzed the battlefield again. No wreckage. No remains. It was as if their warriors had been erased from existence. "Commander," Varkesh said, his voice tight with unease, "we have no readings of enemy weapons, no signs of an attack." Zorvac's eyes narrowed. "Then send in the hunters." A squad of 20 elite Vracair warriors armed with energy blades and plasma rifles descended onto Earth. Unlike the scouts, these were not pilots. They were killers. The moment they landed, they activated their cloaking shields and spread out through the ruins of an abandoned human city. Their mission was clear: find the enemy, eliminate them. For a while, all was quiet. The warriors moved in silence, scanning every shadow, every doorway. Their advanced technology should have revealed any life forms hiding nearby. But the only readings were themselves. Then the first scream echoed through the comms. A deep guttural cry of pain, then silence. Zorvak and his officers froze as the live feed from one of the warriors' helmets flickered. The screen shook violently, flashing glimpses of a dark alley, something moving fast. Then static. Another scream. Then another. One by one, the signals went dead. Zorvak's chest tightened. This is not possible. Then, a transmission came through. A human voice. Cold, emotionless. They never even saw us. Commander. Zorvak's blood ran cold. The humans weren't hiding. They were waiting. And now, they were hunting the hunters. Zorvak's claws twitched as he listened to the human's voice echo through the command center. They never even saw us. Commander. The transmission cut out, leaving only silence. The control room was filled with the uneasy breathing of rock-hair warriors. 20 of their best hunters, gone. No bodies, no signs of struggle, just gone. This was not war. This was slaughter. Varkesh broke the silence. His voice was low, tense. Commander, we should regroup. This planet is not what we thought. Zorvak's eyes burned with rage. You are suggesting we run. Varkesh hesitated. The Vraker had never retreated before. Their species had spent centuries as the apex predators of the galaxy. They did not run. They did not lose. But now, something was wrong. Before Zorvak could respond, a new alert flashed on the control panel. The ship's scanners had picked up movement, not far from the last known location of their fallen warriors. Finally, a target. Launch the war drones, Zorvak growled. A dozen mechanical hunting drones shot down toward the planet, scanning the ruins below. These machines had perfect sensors, heat vision, motion tracking, and a full arsenal of weapons. If humans were there, the drones would find them. Seconds passed, then minutes. The command center watched the drone feeds closely. The ruins of the city stretched before them. Empty streets, flickering streetlights, abandoned buildings. No humans. The drones advanced further. Their scanners swept every alley, every doorway. Still nothing. Then suddenly, one of the drone's cameras spun wildly. The screen blurred, filled with static. Then, darkness. One by one, the drones went offline. Silent. Instant. Unnatural. The last drone's camera caught a single image before the screen cut out. A shadowy figure, standing in the middle of the street, staring directly at the drone. No weapons, no armor, just a human. Then, blackness. A chill spread through the Vraker warship. Zorvak's fists clenched. How are they doing this? Varkesh exhaled slowly. His claws tapped against the control panel. His voice was quiet, almost disbelieving. They're not fighting us, Commander. He looked at Zorvak, his eyes filled with something the Vraker had never known. They're playing with us. The control room of the Vraker warship felt different now. The arrogance, the confidence, all of it had faded. In its place, an uncomfortable silence filled the air. Fear, a word never spoken among the Vraker, was beginning to take shape. Zorvak refused to accept it. They were the apex predators of the universe. No species had ever challenged them. This was not possible. He turned toward Varkesh. Deploy the ground forces, full strike teams. We will burn this planet down if we have to. Varkesh hesitated for the first time. Commander, if we do not understand the enemy, we may be walking into another trap. Zorvak snarled. Then we walk into it with our weapons drawn. Earth. Ground zero. 50 Vrakar warriors dropped into the ruined city, landing in tight formation, heavily armed, ready for war. This time, there were no scouts, no mistakes. They moved in full force, a hunting party powerful enough to destroy an army. The city was dead silent. The Vrakar's advanced helmets scanned everything. No movement, no threats. The leader of the strike team, Karath, activated his comms. The area is clear, no sign of hostiles. A voice crackled in his ear. Zorvak. Advance. Find me a target. The warriors split into squads, moving down empty streets. Their weapons hummed with energy, ready to fire at the slightest movement. Then the first scream. A sharp, painful cry echoed through the comms. Then silence. Report. Karoth barked. Nothing. A second scream. Another squad went dark. No gunfire. No struggle. Just gone. Karoth's breathing grew heavy. He turned, scanning the rooftops, the alleyways. Where were they? Then his visor flickered. A warning flashed across his display. Movement detected, behind him. Karoth spun, raising his weapon. Nothing. Then, a whisper, a human voice. Calm. Close. Too slow. A cold blade pressed against his throat. He tried to react, but his muscles locked up. The last thing Karoth saw was a shadow moving past him. Silent, invisible. Then, darkness. Aboard the Vrakar warship, Zorvak watched the monitors in horror. Squad after squad was vanishing. The enemy was not fighting them head-on. They were hunting them. Varkesh turned to Zorvak, his voice tight. Commander, we need to leave. Now. Zorvak's claws tightened. His rage burned. But beneath it, something else stirred. Something he had never felt before. For the first time in his life, he was afraid. The Vrakar warship floated above Earth like a steel beast, its hull gleaming in the darkness of space. Inside, the command center was eerily quiet. The air felt heavy, thick with something the warriors did not want to admit. Fear. Zorvak's crimson eyes burned as he watched the live feed from the battlefield. It was chaos. Dozens of elite Vrakar warriors vanished. No signs of battle. No enemy bodies. No sounds of gunfire. Only the screams of his soldiers before the silence swallowed them. A sharp beeping sound filled the air. A new transmission. Not from his warriors. From them. A human voice, calm and deliberate, echoed through the control room. Tell me, Commander, how does it feel? Zorvak's claws dug into the metal armrest. How does what feel? He growled. To be the prey. The room went cold. Zorvak shot a glance at Varkesh, whose expression was unreadable. The crew was listening. The humans were not just winning. They were toying with them. This was psychological warfare. Zorvak bared his fangs. You think this changes anything? You are insects compared to us. There was a pause. Then the human chuckled. Not nervous, not afraid. Amused. You think this is over? Commander, you haven't even seen us yet. The transmission cut out. A chilling realization settled over the Vrakar officers. If the humans were capable of this without even revealing themselves, what else were they hiding? Suddenly, alarms blared across the ship. Varkesh turned to the control panel, his voice sharp. Commander, something is happening on the planet. Zorvak's eyes snapped back to the battlefield feed. The last remaining squad of Vrakar warriors, the strongest of them all, was running. They were not retreating in formation. They were fleeing. Something was chasing them. But the scanners still showed nothing. One by one, the warriors disappeared into the shadows. Screams echoed through the comms, each one ending in chilling silence. Then the final warrior's helmet feed flickered. Zorvak saw it. A pair of human eyes staring directly into the camera. Calm. Focused. Unafraid. Then, darkness. The screen went black. No more signals. The Vrakar ground forces were gone. Varkesh turned slowly to Zorvak. His voice was barely above a whisper. "Commander, we have made a mistake." Zorvak said nothing. For the first time in his life, he knew Varkesh was right. The silence in the Vrakar warship was unnatural. The warriors aboard were bred for battle, yet none of them spoke. None of them could. Their entire ground force was gone. Zorvak's claws twitched against the armrest of his throne. He refused to believe this. How could an inferior species, one without advanced technology, without fleets, be capable of this? Varkesh exhaled sharply. "Commander, we must leave. Now." Zorvak didn't respond. He stared at the blackened screens where his warriors' feeds had gone dark. Something wasn't right. Then, a new alarm. The ship's AI voice crackled through the speakers. "Proximity alert. Unauthorized entry detected." The crew turned toward the main display. A single escape pod was drifting toward the warship. Zorvak's eyes narrowed. "Identify it." A technician's voice wavered. "It's one of ours." Zorvak leaned forward. "Impossible. No Vrakar should have survived." Varkesh was already shaking his head. "It's a trap." Zorvak ignored him. "Bring it aboard." The hangar doors opened, pulling the pod inside. Warriors surrounded it instantly, weapons drawn. A long moment passed. Then the hatch hissed open. A single figure emerged. A Vrakar warrior. His armor was torn, his breathing ragged. His eyes, once full of pride, were empty. Zorvak stormed into the hangar. "Who did this to you?" The warrior's gaze lifted. He should have looked relieved to see his commander, but instead, he looked haunted. "They let me go." The words sent a chill through the room. Varkesh stepped closer. "Who?" The warrior's voice cracked. "The humans." Zorvak's jaw tightened. Why would they let a single Vrakar live? The warrior seemed to sense the question in his eyes. His next words froze the air in the hangar. "Because they wanted me to tell you. You were never hunting them." He swallowed hard. His mandibles trembled. "You walked into their trap from the beginning." Boom. The warship shook violently. Lights flickered. Alarms blared. A new alert flashed on the control panels. Boarding breach detected. Multiple unknown life forms inside the ship. Varkesh grabbed Zorvak's arm. His voice was no longer commanding. It was desperate. "They're already here." Zorvak turned to his warriors. "Seal the ship. Arm yourselves. We will not be taken like prey." The warriors roared in unison. But deep in the ship, the screams had already begun. The warship trembled. Not from weapons fire. Not from an external attack. From something inside. Zorvak moved swiftly through the corridors, his pulse pounding. The alarms screamed across the ship. His crew was dying. The security feed flickered on his display, showing darkness where there should have been light. Hallways abandoned. Weapon stations silent. Then, movement. Shadows shifted. A Vrakar warrior ran across the screen, panting heavily, his claws gripping a plasma rifle. He fired wildly into the darkness. Nothing was there. Then the lights flickered. A figure appeared behind him. A human. The warrior turned. Too late. A blade flashed. Screen. Black. Zorvak tightened his fists. He had seen enough. "All warriors, to the bridge. We will hold our ground here." Varkesh's voice cut through the chaos. "Commander, we cannot fight an enemy we cannot see." Zorvak growled. "Then we make them see us." He slammed his fist against the console, activating the ship's emergency purge system. Every corridor, every room. Flames erupted. A firestorm spread through the warship, burning away the shadows. For a moment, silence. Then, a voice. "Desperate, Commander." Zorvak's blood ran cold. The voice did not come from the speakers. It came from inside the bridge. He turned, plasma weapon raised. The warriors around him did the same, scanning the room. But it was already too late. One by one, figures emerged from the darkness. Humans, unarmed, unarmored, yet completely fearless. Zorvac roared, lunging forward. A sharp pain. He froze. His body refused to move. A single human stood before him, holding a small, simple-looking blade. For centuries, you thought yourselves the ultimate predators. Zorvac collapsed to his knees, his vision blurring. But a true predator never announces itself. The last thing Zorvac saw was the human tilting his head, as if studying a weak, dying animal. A final whisper before everything went dark. Welcome to the food chain. The Vrakar warship never returned. The galaxy would never know what happened to them. Only one thing was certain. The apex predators of the universe had finally met something stronger, and they never saw it coming.